Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to the very first episode of League of Legends In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about armor and health, how they relate to each other. It's also going to be talking about magic resistance, diminishing returns, and armor efficiency, that sort of stuff. This is my very first episode of League of Legends In Depth. I'm a relatively new player to this game, been playing it for about 2.5 months of now. Pwnstar got me on it, and I'm a little bit nervous about posting it because I know the audience for this game is very, very hardcore. Like, if you're not Diamond League, Ultra Platinum, then it's always kind of a risk, and I'm not even very high level right now. I'm playing down in like level 12, 13 with Rammus. This is some old footage, but I'm just using Rammus as an example because Rammus is a very heavily armor-based character, and the footage that you're seeing just kind of shows how much damage he can soak up based on the armor. Now that we're done introducing the gameplay, let's talk about armor and magic resistance. They both have the exact same functional game mechanic. I'm going to talk about armor because I don't want to say magic resist, magic resist, magic resist 5 times over because it's a mouthful, so we're just going to stick with armor for simple examples here. And armor gives you damage reduction like this. You take your armor and you divide that by 100 minus the armor, and that's what percentage damage reduction you'll get. It's not immediately clear, but I put it into Excel and you get a graph like this. It starts off with almost linear damage reduction all the way up to about 20-30%. Then you see it starting to curve, and as you get more and more armor, each point of armor gives you less and less damage reduction. So after about, I would say, maybe 150 to 200 armor, buying more armor is apparently not very efficient. Now, League of Legends pros, you're about to jump all up in my butt about this, but hang on. Because of this sort of chart and this sort of logic, the myth is that armor has diminishing returns. For those of you that aren't familiar with the concept of diminishing returns, the easiest way that I could explain it would be that it's just not cost effective, that to get 50% damage reduction it would cost 1,000 gold, but to move it up to 60% it would cost 10,000. It just doesn't seem to be worth it there because you're paying 10 times as much for 10 times less. It would be like overpaying for something. That's the easiest way to think about it. That's usually how it's presented, economics, finance, something like that. But just reference back the graph if it gets a little bit confusing. But we're going to put this to the test, that it has diminishing returns based on effective health. Effective health is effectively how much damage you can take, because armor reduces some of that damage. We'll just stick with physical health now. We're going to talk about magic resistance a little bit, and it's just, if somebody hits you for 500 damage and you have 50% reduction, then you would be only receiving 250 of that damage. This is like a damage counter, how much effective health you have with the armor. Very simple formula, it's been up on the screen. It's health times 1 plus armor divided by 100, and when you put this into the same sort of Excel calculation, what you'll see is that armor increases and effective health increases linearly. There's maybe not a one-to-one relationship here, but it is a very simple, straightforward, linear increase so that there is no diminishing returns on effective health. You'll notice that the graph starts at 3,000. That's because I made an imaginary character that has a base health of 3,000. It just, if I keep nice round numbers, it's easier for me to calculate based on that. And the relationship between armor and effective health is that plus 1 armor, or 1 point or 1 unit of armor, is equal to plus 1% effective health, or plus 1% of your base health. And this is always true. No matter how much armor or magic resistance you're building, 1 unit of the defense is equal to plus 1% effective health. And your effective health is extremely important in time to kill calculations. This is a basic time to kill calculation using an N-1 formula, assuming that the first hit starts at the beginning of the combat, so you subtract that one out. That shows a time to kill of 9 seconds on my imaginary character that has 3,000 health, and I'm assuming the damage that this other imaginary person is doing is 300, and you can see that as armor increases with effective health, it's going to increase, and time to kill is going to increase linearly. Because of this, the reality is that there are no diminishing returns on armor or magic resistance. At no point is it a bad idea to buy more armor or buy magic resistance items. That is, if you want tankiness. If you want tankiness, it's always a good idea to add more armor, and it's always a good idea to add more magic resistance. There's no magical efficiency barrier. There's no point at which it doesn't continue to benefit you in the same way that it always has. However, there are a few caveats to this. The biggest one is that if you're dealing with a team that has a lot of physical damage and AP damage, ability point or magic damage is usually how it converts. It doesn't usually go to physical damage. But if you're dealing with a team that deals a lot of physical damage and equal amounts of magical damage, then perhaps just buying more health is better, because you'd have to buy items that give you both armor and magic resistance continually stacked like this. And in most cases, buying health, you're going to get more effective health or more total health or more, longer longer time to kill for your money. So that's an obvious kind of thing, unless your character is really great at one and you just compensate for the other. And of course, these help more if your base health is higher. If you have a base health of 5,000, then your armor is going to be more effective, or you'll have more effective health with the same armor than if your base health was 1,000. That's very straightforward stuff. But the point of the episode was just kind of dispel the myth on diminishing returns of armor. And there's one last thing I'd like to say is that if you have a very low base health but very absurdly high armor or magic resistance, this can lead to an interesting efficiency with healing, because healing is just going to heal your base health and not your effective health. So if you have really high armor and maybe like something stupid low, like 1,000 health at the end of the game, but you have like 800 armor, then a support player can continue healing you for a lot of effective health, and it makes you a very, very difficult tank to deal with. Well guys, that's all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something. I hope that my math is correct and that you don't mind the somewhat newbie gameplay in the background. Please let me know what you think about the episode, and let me know if you would like to see more. Drifter out.